I'm trying to keep my deck collection and my tarot consumption from spiraling completely out of control. So today I'm showing you 10 decks that I have hopefully talked myself out of. It's an anti-haul. Hello, everybody. It's Sylvie. Welcome back to Tarot Magpie. I hope you're doing all kinds of good today. This one is what it says on the tin. It's an anti-haul. I'm sharing 10 decks that I, for some reason or another, feel like I want, but today we are attempting to talk myself out of it. So let's get straight into it. Okay, first up, this is the Golden Art Nouveau Tarot. This is a low Scarabeo deck. And for a hot minute, I was like, I really want this. Basically, I wanted a shiny Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And this is really pretty. It's an Art Nouveau style. I believe that all of this is like gilded on the background. And then I got myself the Klimt tarot, and I also still do want the Botticelli tarot. So I feel like this is no longer a necessary purchase. I feel like I have decks that fill this gap. I wanted this for the sake of being a pretty golden shiny, fairly straightforward Rider-Waite-Smith based deck, and I now have that base covered. So that was a very efficient run through of the Golden Art Nouveau. Let's move along. Oh, look, it's another Art Nouveau deck. There is a bit of a theme. Can we not expand you? I don't think I can make this picture big, so we've just got to go with this. All right, so this is the Ethereal Visions Illuminated Tarot deck. This was the first one. There is a second one, which I also have in this video. And this one was a little harder to talk myself out of because visually it's not the same style as like this one. This one, the Golden Art Nouveau, is much more straightforward Rider-Waite-Smith in its interpretation. You can see it's pretty much a Rider-Waite-Smith clone in a different art style. The Ethereal Visions is not so straightforward a clone. Like here, this moon card is very different. We've got a figure here instead of the usual like pillars and the dog and the wolf. It is its own take. And the reason I'm telling myself I don't need this one is because it's a bit too portraity. I don't like a peoply deck. The only peoply deck that's really stayed in my collection is the Morgan Greer, and that's because that one is just so to the point. I can't help but love it. Whereas this, it's very pretty. It's very pretty, but I don't need it. Again, it was the gilding that got me. Third on the list is the Lunar edition of the Ethereal Visions Tarot. I told you there was a bit of a theme. This was a second edition, and I think part of the reason for this one was because the Ethereal Visions was not very diverse in terms of the figures, specifically in terms of people of color, if I remember correctly. And the Lunar version was in part, I think, an attempt to rectify that. And then also, it's just got a slightly different vibe. It's got like silver holographic instead of gold, which is very tempting. And I think it's just a redraw, it's just an update. So I definitely don't need both. And I am telling myself that I don't need this one either, because at the end of the day, it's a Rider-Waite-Smith based deck. It is also very portraity, and it's very pretty. It's ever so pretty, but like I don't need it. I feel like the Fyodor Pavlov fills this space for me as being like a beautifully drawn Rider-Waite-Smith based deck. That's a very interesting hierophant. I don't understand this at all. Maybe this is the card that is talking me out of this deck, because that nothing about that says hierophant to me. Somebody explain. And then this, oh, is that the Justice? Oh, she's good. But yeah, I don't need any of these. I don't need any of these Art Nouveau decks. Nouveau. Ooh, what did I say? Like I've got the Klimt, which is gorgeous. And I feel like that hits the spot. I don't have a particular and specific love for the Art Nouveau period over anything else. So I certainly can't use that to justify collecting all the Art Nouveau decks. And it's pretty. That's what it is. There are a lot of pretty decks out there. I don't need it. I'm not going to buy it. Moving along, I feel like I speed ran those three decks a little bit, but they were sort of all the same point. This is the Curious Travels Tarot. This was an indie deck that came out mass market earlier this year, late last year. I was intrigued when it was indie. I thought it was beautiful. I didn't want to spend the money at the time. And so for that reason, when I first saw that this was coming out mass market, I was like, oh, yes, definitely no brainer, right? Add it to my list. And then I thought about it. I watched a walkthrough or two. I believe a lot of this is gold gilding, which is also very tempting. Apparently, it's a very shiny theme today. Oh, that Page of Pentacles is beautiful. Like it's a Rider-Waite-Smith based deck. And really, how many of those does one person need? It's gorgeous. I think it is a little bit unique. I do like these court cards. This Knight of Cups, really cool. That'll be the backs. And then this. Is that the moon? We've got the two pillars. This is the High Priestess. I don't know who this funky little owl is because it's not the High Priestess. I suppose an owl would kind of make sense for the moon. It's a nighttime creature, but beyond that, I don't know. A mystery to me. I am really stuck on this Knight of Cups. I just don't need it. It's consistent enough with the Rider-Waite-Smith that I don't think it would be adding anything particularly new or valuable in terms of a expanding my practice sense. I don't think it will be adding anything particularly valuable to my collection. And although I think the art is beautiful, again, I don't think it's different enough, and I'm not completely head over heels in love with it enough to add it to my collection. It reminds me of the New Chapter Tarot, which I have, which is also a kind of like watercolory. It's got this like paper texture background on it. So it feels similar in vibes to something I've already got. I don't think it's a big enough deal for me to justify adding it to my collection. I might be misremembering, but was this the deck that had like a little haiku or a little poem in the guidebook for each of the cards? I think that might have been a selling point of the deck. I'm possibly misremembering it and confusing it with another deck. Either way, that's not a selling point for me personally. So, yes, I have successfully talked myself out of this one, I think. All right, the Sky Wisdom Oracle cards. Okay. I love the sky. I'm a Libra, I'm an airy, mercurial person. I love to take a picture of the sky. I love a good cloud. I really wanted to want this, but it's a single keyword deck, which is simply not my favorite. It's just a collection of probably stock images of the sky and keywords. And like I could do that myself that make more sense to me personally than what we've got here. If it had multiple keywords, if it was something like the Sea Soul Journeys, which had like a little blessing for each card, if it just had a bit more something a bit extra to read from, I would have bought it already because I would love an airy oracle deck. I would love a sky-based oracle deck. I would love a cloud. Like I would love it. I want it, but it's just not quite doing enough for me. I just would never reach for it. It's not worth my time and money. It's not worth the space in my collection. I want a deck like this. This deck just isn't quite hitting the spot. So if you know of a good like airy oracle or a sky oracle or both, do let me know. Please let me know in the comments because that's something that I would really love to add to my collection. Okay, the Pastel Prism Tarot. This is another Los Scarabeo one, and I actually mentioned this I was browsing upcoming releases a couple months ago, and I saw this and I thought, oh, this is cute. Oh, this is cute. It looks like the Rainbow Tarot, which I don't have, but I did also want. It's absolutely beautiful. And as I'm looking at it, like, look at this fabulous emperor. The lemons on the swords, like the little lemon tattoo, the bitterness of the swords. I don't know if that's what that's going for, but that's what I'm reading. And the backs are so pretty. Why is this on this list? Why am I doing this to myself? It's so cute. But that's it. It's cute. It's a vaguely, I think we're more Rider-Waite-Smith than we are Marseille. Oh, there's no pictures of the miners here though. I don't know if this is pips or if this is fully illustrated miners. So that's definitely a reason not to buy it right now because that would impact my decision. I want to see what the miners look like. This reminds me, like I said, of the Rainbow Tarot. It reminds me a little bit of the I know that she's come out with a Marseille that is I think the Pip Speak Marseille, and I'm completely blanking on what the name of her Rider-Waite-Smith based tarot is. So this is reminding me of a few other things that I've wanted and haven't got or haven't got yet. And I think I don't need it. I need to be a little bit ruthless. I have only so much space. I have only so much money. A new deck means a new investment of time into working with it. And as gorgeous as this is, I don't need it. I need to stop looking at the Emperor because I love that Emperor. Like this looks like a little crystal ball. Okay, the Empress is my least favorite card out of the bunch because I was looking at the Devil and I was like, it's a layer cake. But we'll look at the Empress because she's my least favorite. I like it's gorgeous. Like I don't want a poster of this in the same way that I like the Emperor. It's a colourful Rider-Waite-Smith deck. How many of those does one need? I'm moving on before I can talk myself back into it. This is the Sweet Foragers Tarot. This is so not a me deck. It's very peoply. I don't love the art style. It's not my favorite. Like it's cute. I don't love it. The thing is, the colors are gorgeous. The colors are so cute. And I just had a moment where I really wanted something that was like this, like candy colored and this cute and this pretty. Like it is just delightful to look at, even if it's not my favorite art style. But it's far too peoply. This Queen of Crystals, I'm assuming is Crystal's cups because we're like a jellyfish and it's kind of like alieny, it's kind of like fun and funky. I feel like it might go quite well with like maybe the Zeke's Arcana or something like that. We've got a centaur for the Knight of, I'm assuming, swords. That would be, I know that for me personally it would be a bit of a novelty and I'd never really reach for it again. I'm saying this and I'm like talking myself back into it. I don't know what's gotten into me recently, but I'm looking at all kinds of decks that I wouldn't usually look at. And like this death is so fun. Sorry, this is like potato quality. Like this death is so fun with the skelly with like the moss growing on him. I don't need it. I'd use it once in a blue moon. Right, moving on. Desert Illuminations Tarot. This is a mass market release of what was previously an indie deck. Pretty sure this is very new. Oh, those edges and those backs. And I do want this, but I don't need it, even though I love the aliens, or at least I don't need it right now. It reminds me a bit of the Mystical Forest Tarot, which I impulse bought last summer, have barely reached for. And like, do we see the similarities in like the color palette? Obviously the vibes are different. I love the cloud. See, I love a good cloud. I love the clouds in the sword suit in this. But like the colors are very similar. This is this kind of alien, and like this is fun. This is a bit pulpy. This is Brazil's forests, I think. Yeah, Brazil's unrivaled Amazon rainforest. So the inspiration is different, the vibes are different, but the color palette's very similar. The kind of energy I get from the cards from looking at them is very similar. And I have barely reached for this, is my point. I have barely reached for the Mystical Forest. So I have absolutely no business getting the Desert Illuminations Tarot when they give me the same kind of energy just from looking at the images. Once I've worked with the Mystical Forest, I know how I feel about it. Maybe I'll revisit this, but at the moment, I just think it's cool. I just love the aliens, like this little UFO here. I think it's cool. I don't know what I'd do with it. And that's actually kind of the same with the Sweet Foragers. Like, it's really pretty. I don't know what I'd do with it. There's no gap in my practice that I can see this filling. Like it's not my usual style. And I've bought decks before that are not my usual style, but I end up loving them. So that on its own isn't a complete deal breaker. But it's just that the colors are cute. It's just this like candy colored palette that has me wanting it. I don't actually know when I'd use this in my practice, which is the whole point. So we're pausing on that, even if it is absolutely dirt cheap on Amazon right now. Ooh, didn't need to know that. Okay, so the Desert Illuminations, it's not a never ever, but I certainly don't need it anytime soon. Moving on, the Radiant Wilds Tarot. This is another like deserty one. And this has been on and off my wish list, or on and off like the top of my wish list more times than I can count. The colors, like the golds, the pinks, the oranges. But the thing is, this is a photo of a person. I don't like that in my decks. I don't like real people. I don't like people looking at me. The setting and the sort of scenes, the way the cards are set up, the visual storytelling of the scene, if you will, is much more abstract, is much less realistic. I'm not going to take this literally, because this is a collage. It just happens to have a photograph of a real person in it. Oh, but it's beautiful. It's abstract and it's gorgeous and I love the colors. And if this is gold foiled, that's very tempting, but it's a little bit empty of symbolism. I think that's the thing. It's gorgeous art pieces, but I don't know how I'd actually read this in practice. And I think maybe it's one that I'd like to see in person before before I if I decide to buy it, I want to see it in person because I think it's one of those that might actually be really lovely in person. And I think it would probably be a good deck to pair with other decks. But that on its own is not a good enough reason for me to justify spending the money to add this to my collection, just because I think it would pair well with other decks. As beautiful and stunning and gorgeous as it is, and I do love this color palette, and I'm not sure if I have anything in this specifically like bright and beautiful and very warm toned color palette. It's very tempting, and I've seriously been considering this again the last couple of months. I've seen a few videos where people have been showing this deck off and pairing it with things and using it, and I'm like, oh, it is gorgeous. I do love it. Oh, it's got gilded edges. Oh dear. But no, I don't need it. Again, I can't see what purpose it would serve in my collection that another deck doesn't already serve. I have similar kind of photo collage decks that I don't really reach for all that often. I just don't think it's a smart purchase at this point. I will happily be wrong about that, but like I say, I think I need to have a play with it in person somehow, somewhen, somewhere. I don't know when that opportunity will come up, but I'm not in a rush. The penultimate deck is the Tarot de Luz. Why do I think I don't want this? Basically, I love a Fournier deck. I love the size of a Fournier deck. So this has been on my radar for a while. It's really cute. Like I love the styling. It's really charming. It's got a lot of personality to it. Like it's pretty, but it's not like conventionally pretty, if that makes sense. Like the color choices are pretty. There's a lot of pink. Obviously, I've seen this in a couple of people's pink tarot decks videos. And you know I love me a pink deck. It's very pretty. I just don't need it. I think that's the theme with almost everything in this video is I would happily add them to my collection. I just don't need them. There's no like use case. That's the backs, which again are lovely. There's no specific use case where I need this deck over anything that already exists in my collection. I think I'm at a bit of a saturation point, at least with Rider-Waite-Smith based decks, which a lot of these are. This, I think, this is interesting actually. I think I need to take a better look at the pips because this isn't strictly pips. It's not Rider-Waite-Smith based. And I think, yeah, we've got the Three of Pentacles there. Maybe if I take another look and I take, look at some walkthroughs and take a better look at the pip cards, maybe I'd feel differently. I do think this Empress is really cool with this like falcon and this snake here. It's doing some interesting things, but right now I don't need it. That's it. I said this was the penultimate deck. I lied because the other tab is this deck that I already own. I'm very happy with the decks that I have in my collection right now. I love having a big collection. I'm not stopping buying decks. I'm not like imposing specific rules on myself, but I do want to be thinking quite thoroughly about what a deck is actually going to bring into my practice. And you'll notice all but one of these have been tarot decks. This was the only oracle. I think oracles are kind of a bit of a different kettle of fish because they're not all following the same system. But when it comes to a tarot deck, like these are all beautiful. I would happily work with any of these, but I don't really need them. I don't think any of them are doing anything unique enough with their structure that's really that different from my existing decks. Like this one, I think it's got some cool stuff going on, but a lot of my decks have some cool imagery going on. I could stop buying decks tomorrow and be set for life. Like I have more than enough tarot decks to keep me occupied. So it's doing some cool stuff, but that on its own is not that different from anything else in my collection. And then the decks that are more like a Rider-Waite-Smith clone, like I don't even know how many Rider-Waite-Smith clones. This would just be adding another pretty Rider-Waite-Smith clone to my collection. It's not functionally doing anything that new and interesting. Same with these two. I think I like they're beautiful. They're beautiful, but that's it. I'm thinking of that scene from The Swan Princess. Like, what else is there? That's everything. That is 10 decks that I really want. I think they're beautiful. If somebody gave me any of these decks, I'd be extremely happy to add them to my collection, but I don't need them. They're not what I need to be spending my resources of time to work with them and money to purchase them and space to store them. I just don't need them. And as Kimberly Clark once said, I don't need it. I'm not going to buy it. So that's everything from me. Like I said, let me know if there is a sky or air themed oracle deck. That is something that is on my list. This deck just doesn't quite tick the box. I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for watching and spending some time with me. If you've made it this far into the video, I really hope you've enjoyed. Drop me a little cloud emoji in the comments to let me know that you've made it to the end. If you want to see more from me, there is a link in the video description to my Patreon where we do all sorts of fun stuff. So do come check us out. There's also a link to my Etsy store. And that's it. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.